Everything going on with Victor this season is...
That was the day that I met the boy in white. He was my only friend all those years that I was alone. Everyone had to hide. There were no talismans then. When I woke up the next morning, everyone...
A lot of what we saw in this episode was truly amazing, and the talking puppet was just... But by far, the main thing from this episode is that Victor is still hiding information from the townspeople. He's still lying about a lot of things, and this to me has always been the most suspicious thing about this man, and it's been consistent for a while because he obviously knows so much about this cursed Fromland, but he chooses not to reveal what he knows. He chooses to keep lying to these people. And even with the situation of him forgetting his sister, Victor clearly remembered his mom going to the tower before he saw his sister's drawings, which means not only did Victor know about the bottle tree and the faraway trees and did not tell the rest of the town, but he also clearly believed that his mom went to free some children in order to take everybody home. But Victor, he never says anything about it. And it just makes him look so suspicious. And now we have more evidence that Victor's been hiding even more information because he knew the demonic puppet knows way more information than him, but he did not say anything about it. Like, what?
He was my only friend all those years that I was alone.
Before you got here, I was burying more people in a week than you'd seen die in the last 2 years. But you were the one who found the talismans.
We used to play in here. Nighttime, everyone had to hide. There were no talismans then.
The biggest thing about this episode is we now know with 100% certainty that Victor did not have a talisman for the 40 or so years he spent in Fromland after the massacre. And this... It's by far the most suspicious thing about any character we've ever seen in this entire show. No action has ever been done by anyone else that's more suspicious than Victor surviving 40 years with no talismans. Father Cartry said before the talismans he was burying more people in a week than Boyd saw dying in 2 years after the talismans were found. So the fact that Victor was the only person living in this town for multiple years, if not decades, like you'd have to be insane to believe that, oh, he survived those 40 years because he's just really good at hide and seek. What the fuck are you talking about? Nothing, absolutely nothing about Victor's survival makes any sense. And you cannot use the boy in white as the reason because Victor literally says that the boy in white only helped him for a few years and then he was gone for decades. So nothing about Victor's survival in this town makes any sense. He was the only person living in this town for years, or possibly 1 or more decades, meaning there were dozens of monsters looking for him specifically, and they never found him even once? You'd have to be clinically insane to believe this. I don't know how he did it or what he knows, but he's clearly hiding something about the monsters. Whether he did some sort of ritual that made him immune to the monsters or he made a deal with the entity or whatever you want to say, I don't know what it is specifically, but he clearly did not survive by being the best hide and seek player in all of history. What? No.
Listen, we gotta talk.
I have to go.
Huh? No.
Hey, what are you doing?
Made a deal, remember? I play you the song, you tell me about the symbol. You didn't tell me you saw it on the wall, down in those tunnels.
Hey, KJ, stop it!
Hey, look at me. You don't get to pick and choose, because that may be how we go home.
This is my home.
Victor is once again lying and hiding information just like he always does. And even this was so obvious in season 2 because he made a deal with Jade to tell him everything he knows about the symbol if Jade played him the violin. But he lied to Jade and did not tell him that he saw the symbol down in the tunnels. And I'm just like, he's still lying. We see this happening with him time and time again in this story. We have seen him lying and hiding information that he clearly knows again and again and again. And This is why Victor is one of the most suspicious people in this entire show. Like, whose side is Victor actually on? And I mean this as a completely genuine question because there's so much in this story hinting that he's not working for our side, whether he knows it or not. Something we see in this entire show is that the monsters, they never seem to attack him. They never even try to attack Victor. Every single time where there's been some sort of an attack, they just completely ignore him and act like he's not even there. It was the same in the attack at Colony House, where he doesn't get a single scene with any monster, and when Jade was about to be attacked in this season, they just completely ignore Victor. Like, it's completely insane. And because Victor survived 4 decades in this town, all of this stuff just makes it seem like the monsters themselves are avoiding him and don't want to get involved, which alone says a lot about Victor by itself. It reminds me of how the monsters were standing completely still when the Abby entity showed up in the RV, and how they didn't attack Randall in the woods that entire night because they were afraid of the cicadas. The fact that they never attack Victor and they clearly were ignoring him for decades on end has to mean something.
One night my mother told me to hide some. Christopher didn't know. And when I woke up the next morning, everyone...
They told me that if I didn't do it, that everyone would die.
Let's not forget that Victor was just coincidentally the only person who survived the massacre, just like he's coincidentally the only person who survived in all these 40 years he's been living in the town. And his mom only started having visions multiple years after Victor was born, and the night before she died, she tells him to hide from Christopher, implying that the dummy was telling him either to cause the massacre or kill the boy. And with Sarah, the voices specifically told her killing the boy would allow them to go home. And with everything going on with Victor, I wouldn't be surprised at all if he was the target all along, not Ethan and not even the boy in white. Because when you think about how much he's hiding and has been hiding from the people of this town, one thing that way too many people overlook is that Victor spent a minimum of 3 nights in the underground tunnels where the monsters live, waiting for Tabitha. So that's incredibly suspicious. There's no way that in 40 years there wasn't a single night where he overslept out on the grass and Smiley woke him up with a slash to the back. Like, that never happened even once. How? Doesn't make any sense. He was alone for multiple years, so there would have been no one to wake him up after he overslept. Like, his survival, it literally doesn't make any sense, especially considering he did not have any talismans. The best that you can ever say with what's going on with Victor is some entity is using him. Whether he knows it or not doesn't even matter, because nothing, absolutely nothing about his survival in this town makes any sense otherwise.